Is it just a standard welcome to the league moment, or are we witnessing a coordinated campaign of pure jealousy designed to break a rising star? When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, she brought millions of dollars in sponsorships, sold-out arenas, and unprecedented global media coverage with her. But instead of a red carpet, league veterans rolled out something entirely different: raw, unchecked, and highly physical hostility. Before we even begin our official countdown, look at this high-stakes matchup against the Chicago Sky, which perfectly sets the stage for the narrative surrounding her rookie year. Right from the opening tip, the defensive pressure isn't just tight, it feels intensely personal. Every single possession is treated like a battleground, with defenders crowding her space, bumping her off her spots, and testing her psychological limits. As the third quarter ticks down, the physicality reaches an undeniable breaking point. Watch the play unfold as Clark drives hard toward the basket, looking to execute a tough layup through heavy traffic. Angel Reese rotates over for the block, but instead of making a clean, vertical play on the ball, her arm comes swinging down with a brutal, direct blow right to Caitlin's head. It is a textbook flagrant foul, leaving Clark completely shaken as she tries to walk off the impact. The slow-motion replays from multiple angles reveal the sheer force of the collision. There was no ball contact whatsoever, just a heavy forearm directly to the face of the rookie. As Clark walks away to compose herself, the tension on the court completely boils over. The referees are forced to head to the replay monitor to review the severity of the hit, while the bitterness from the opposing bench is on full display. Players are chirping, coaches are pacing, and Angel Reese sits on the bench smiling and laughing, seemingly amused by the chaos. This wasn't just a hard basketball foul, it was a clear physical statement. But as brutal as that hit was, it was merely the appetizer for the most controversial countdown in women's basketball history. Number 7. Then came the most infamous cheap shot of the entire season, a shocking moment that transcended sports talk shows and sparked a massive national debate about the league's culture. Before the ball is even inbound, the play isn't even live yet, making what happens next completely inexcusable. Chennedy Carter is seen walking alongside Clark, clearly targeting her and waiting for the right moment. Out of nowhere, Carter delivers a violent, intentional blindside shoulder check, shoving the unsuspecting rookie straight to the hardwood floor. There was absolutely no play on the ball, nor could there be, since the whistle hadn't even blown to start the possession. It was a cheap shot, plain and simple, born out of pure frustration. Watch the replays from behind the basket. You can see the deliberate intent as Carter sets her feet and hip checks her with full force. What makes this sequence even more controversial is the immediate reaction of the Chicago bench, with players jumping up and celebrating the hit as Clark is left sitting on the floor in utter disbelief. The Fever bench explodes in rightful outrage, demanding an immediate flagrant whistle, but the referees initially missed the severity of the malicious act, calling it a simple away-from-the-ball common foul. It wasn't until days later, after massive public outcry and intense media scrutiny, that the league office was forced to retroactively upgrade it to a flagrant one. It proved once and for all that the rules seemed to change when it came to protecting the league's biggest star. Number 6. Every single game against the Chicago Sky felt less like a standard, competitive basketball game and more like a targeted physical assault. The relentless harassment followed her up and down the court, with defenders using every opportunity to bump, push, and rattle her composure in hopes of getting her to snap. Watch this sequence as Clark spearheads a fast break, driving hard down the open court with incredible speed and vision. The defender is trailing desperately behind and realizes she cannot stop the play or contest the shot cleanly. Instead of attempting a legal, vertical challenge, she uses her entire body weight to forcefully shove Clark from behind while the rookie is completely airborne and vulnerable. Clark goes flying off her feet, losing all control mid-air, crashing hard into the baseline stanchion and sliding across the floor. Pushing a player who is already in the air is one of the most dangerous, widely condemned moves in basketball, yet the whistles remain incredibly quiet. The slow-motion replay shows the clear, definitive push to the lower back, an act that could easily cause a catastrophic, season-ending injury. Fever coach Christy Sides can be seen on the sideline, completely furious, screaming at the officials to do their jobs and protect her player before someone gets seriously hurt. They weren't just trying to stop her from scoring, it looked like they were trying to physically break her spirit. Number 5. If you thought the regular season physicality was bad, the playoffs raised the stakes to an entirely new, incredibly dangerous level. The intensity was magnified tenfold as the postseason began, and the target on Clark's back only grew larger and more aggressive. In Game 1 of the first round against the Connecticut Sun, the hostility turned into a direct physical injury that changed the course of the game. Watch closely as DiJonai Carrington closes out aggressively on Clark on the perimeter. As Clark passes the ball away, Carrington's hand swipes across her face, driving her long fingernails straight into Caitlin's eye socket. The slow-motion replay is absolutely horrifying to watch. It shows the finger making direct, deep contact with her eye, causing Clark to collapse to the hardwood in absolute agony, immediately covering her face to protect it. The referees completely ignore the play, allowing the Sun to transition down the court while the league's biggest drawing card is left kneeling on the floor in severe pain. When the camera cuts to the bench later in the game, the physical damage is undeniable. Clark is seen completely miserable, using a towel to wipe away tears of frustration while nursing a highly visible, rapidly swelling black eye. The mainstream media tried to brush it off as an accidental closeout. The fans called it a targeted assault. When the face of your league is getting her face literally rearranged in her playoff debut without a single whistle, the standard excuse of it just being physical postseason play completely falls apart. Number 4. The playoff battle with the Connecticut Sun didn't slow down after that injury. Instead, it escalated into absolute chaos on the floor. The physical boundaries were pushed past the limit on every single possession as the Sun tried to bully the rookie out of the series. Watch this sequence on the perimeter where Clark is being hounded by multiple defenders, completely trapped and unable to move. She is grabbed, bumped, and shoved heavily out of bounds right near the baseline without a single whistle. This constant, unpunished hacking causes a massive, explosive confrontation to erupt right under the basket moments later. Players from both teams flood the paint, shoving each other as months of built-up tempers finally flare. Aaliyah Boston and Temi Fagbenle rush in to aggressively shield Clark from being bullied, while Sun veterans like Dawana Bonner and Alyssa Thomas get directly in their faces, shouting, pointing fingers, and refusing to back down. The referees, coaching staff, and arena security have to immediately rush the floor to separate the groups and prevent a full-on fistfight from breaking out in front of a packed arena. The atmosphere is thick with genuine animosity. The replays show the constant grabbing and holding that Clark had to endure all night long, proving that the veterans were willing to risk ejections and technical fouls just to establish physical dominance over the rookie. Number 3. The aftermath of these hostile encounters shows a dangerous, undeniable pattern that lasted the entire duration of her rookie year. This isn't just high-level defensive pressure or standard playoff intensity, it is a complete emotional breakdown from opposing players who simply cannot handle her historic success and the spotlight she commands. Look at the sheer exhaustion and disbelief in Clark's body language as she walks the floor during a timeout. She is constantly forced to look at the referees and ask why a standard basketball play always seems to end with her taking a violent blow to the head, neck, or face. Watch this replay from the top of the key where she is roughly handled during a screen. The defender digs her arm straight into Clark's throat and chin area, sending her dropping to her knees, gasping for air. Once again, no whistle is blown. Clark is left on the ground, holding her neck in pain, while the game continues around her as if nothing happened. The frustration from the Fever coaching staff is palpable as they watch their star player get treated like a punching bag night after night while the officials look the other way for the sake of letting them play. Number 2. Back in the arena against the Chicago Sky, the target on her back becomes even more aggressive as the fierce rivalry reaches a boiling point. As Clark drives hard into the paint for a heavily contested layup, the defense rotates over with maximum force and zero regard for safety. Center Kamilla Cardoso doesn't even attempt a clean, vertical contest on the shot. Instead, she uses her massive frame to completely level Clark mid-air, wiping her out of the sky. Clark hits the hardwood with immense force, landing awkwardly on her back and hip, writhing in pure agony. She remains on the floor for several minutes, clutching her side, while the Sky players huddle up on the other end, completely unbothered by the dangerous play they just executed. The slow-motion replay from behind the baseline clearly shows the lack of intent to play the ball, resulting in yet another flagrant review by the officials. The lack of basic sportsmanship is glaring, and the intent to inflict physical punishment is undeniable. Even when switching opponents, the treatment remains identical across the league. Watch this game against the Dallas Wings where Clark drives into a crowded lane and gets completely clobbered, slamming face-first onto the floor. She stays down on all fours, buried in the hardwood, trying to recover her breath and senses before her teammates slowly pull her back up to her feet. It proves that this hostility wasn't isolated to just one rivalry, it was a league-wide reality that she had to endure every single night. Number 1. And finally, we reach the absolute boiling point of the entire season, the moment where the physical violence reached such a hazardous level that the entire sports world could no longer ignore the blatant targeting. We are talking about dangerous, airborne hits that belong in a wrestling ring, not a professional basketball court. Watch this chaotic explosion against the Connecticut Sun when veteran Alyssa Thomas delivers a vicious clothesline foul, wrapping her arm tightly around Clark's neck and slamming her straight to the floor with terrifying force. It was a non-basketball play so severe and dangerous that it resulted in an immediate flagrant 2 ejection. The hit sparked an instant shouting match on the floor, with players restraining one another, coaches rushing the court, and total pandemonium breaking out in the arena. The national media coverage the next day was filled with breaking news segments highlighting the sheer outrage over how the league's biggest draw was being treated like a punching bag. Watch the post-game press conferences and the reactions on the court as opposing players are seen laughing, taunting, or getting into heated arguments with the Fever bench. The indignation was real. The woman who brought charter flights, massive TV contracts, and sold-out stadiums to this league was being hunted on the court, proving once and for all that the hostility toward Caitlin Clark was a coordinated, bitter reality. The narrative doesn't end here, and the mainstream media will never give you the real story behind what happens on these courts. If you want the unfiltered, honest truth about the drama, the jealousy, and the real history being made in women's basketball, you need to stay tuned to the one source that isn't afraid to speak out. Subscribe to True WNBA Stories right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive. Drop a comment below with your honest thoughts on whether Caitlin Clark is being unfairly targeted by the league, and let's expose the reality together. Thanks for watching True WNBA Stories, where the real narrative finally gets told.